level, they have more clear position. They are more active concerning regulators. Poland, they are the leaders in opposing Gazprom at the overall European level, and other countries are lacking in this respect. And in Germany and in Great Britain, they had meetings. There were representatives of corporations that work with the Gazprom and Rosneft, and they have clear messages. They are well thought through and developed by PR specialists and lawyers. And this is the main challenge for Ukraine and for other partners of Eastern Europe that can suffer a lot from Nord Stream 2. They say that this is just business, that someone from Russia, even if they are corrupt, and they want to build this big pipeline, and for Northern and Western Europe, we will have better diversification, and if someone wants to, why not? It is good for everyone. So they have cooperation starting 1960, and this cooperation was peaceful. And there was also one argument, and I was surprised of this argument. They said that now Eastern European countries, they have this system of transit, and maybe if they will have, so the market will force them to change. So this is about flexibility for everyone, they say. And the most sad thing is that some Ukrainian experts believe this. And our argument, our main arguments, and our main conclusions after we made the trip, that this is not only about Ukraine, and this is the creation of new gas hubs in the territory of Germany, and maybe Turkey, Greece, and Bulgaria. So Gazprom and Kremlin, they try to find the way where they can hit, and they want to change all the infrastructure. And they want to bypass all the Europe, Eastern Europe, not just Ukraine. And there is a search of analytical center, Bruegel Center, and I believe that my colleagues, and I'm really glad that Alan Riley and Mikhail Krutikhin are the participants and will contribute to this topic. And for Ukraine, one of the conclusions is that you should say that your country was, is, and will be a reliable partner. And after Maidan, you are even more reliable partner. And second, what we wanted to say, we should say about collective security of Eastern and Central Europe. It is really important. And also, people do not want to speak about corruption and of Gazprom. Some people in Germany said that this is just speculations, but there are research, and Reuters wrote and that Kirill Shamalov and they helped with the Sibur, and Nemtsov and Milov wrote about it. There is report Putin and Gazprom, and Arkady Rattenberg earned a lot from this project. So Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2, the project of the Kremlin is the same. They want to give money to insiders at the expense of Russian taxpayers and budget. And in Europe, they want to have big corporations as partners and to have political leverage to influence the European Commission, German government, and to carry out the politics divide and rule. So not just to break and stop supply, but just they want to have influence, and Gazprom can have bilateral relations with different partners, not with Europe on the whole. So what answer we got in the West? They said that they have strong regulators, and they say maybe there is corruption in Russia, but here in Europe we can cope with all of this. And I said that the law enforcement bodies, they are sitting on the hips of information about kleptocracy that is in Russia, and Spain prosecutor's office and NDS, they know about Putin and his dealings in this area, and all the team that was involved in corruption in St. Petersburg and in other parts of Russia. They learned this Miller, Dukov, Zubkov, Medvedev. So all this St. Petersburg team, they are connected with Gazprom, and they are still active there. So I tried to answer my colleagues. Let's look at a real track record, how European regulators behave. Starting 12/11, there is an anti-monopoly investigation in Eastern Europe, and they dug a lot of materials that showed that Gazprom earned a lot because of elevated prices and manipulated the markets. And what response we get? They try to they imitate investigation, and they speak about some fines, but when we are speaking about competition and rules, they want to give an Opal pipeline, and I ask where we will supply this gas, and if there are reverse supplies, reverse flows, and this loop that is politically created, this is a natural way of gas supply. This will be a loop through Germany and back to Eastern Europe. And they say, no, this is about the market. But what market if this is a corruption scheme at the expense of Russian taxpayers? And big companies in the West, they deal with it, but we do not know how it will influence simple consumers in the West. And some people say that this will so liquefied gas can become not competitive, and there can be reverse flows that are impossible in such a volume from Germany, but because there is no such reverse infrastructure. And who will build these additional capacities? And so they do not have even money to install interconnectors in the Eastern Europe. So European and American investment, there is no clear understanding of demand, and countries cannot find investment, and they say that they lack investment and they are not able to fight corruption, but they are in they work in the existing infrastructure with Gazprom, and what will happen that everything will be upside down, and there will be interconnectors and reverse supply, reverse supply. So the situation will be like this, that the Gazprom will come with its investment, and they will say that in Opal we got 100%, let's build further, and we will pay for everything, we will do everything. So we want just to get a preference. So this is a very important issue when we speak about collective security. And the most valuable part of our research are 3 last pages, where we provide clear recommendations to American, European policy makers, those who take decisions, to fight against propaganda about these issues, to see real supply and demand, and to show that demand for gas is not so huge, and we shouldn't look at 2030, but we should look several years ahead, and that Gazprom shows not real figures, and we should look clearly at the cooperation of Gazprom not only with the previously with the Soviet Union and then with the current Russia, but also with the cooperation with Syria, Muammar Gaddafi and the other leaders. And they said that there is corruption there, but here we do not have this. And it will bring good cooperation, but we see what happened with Libya and what consequences it had for Europe. So we should think about the size of Libya and the size of Russia and what consequences corruption and this oil and gas dollars that goes to Spendentenfev or Rettenberg brothers. So we see this actions in Montenegro, and Germans from corporations, they say that this is a reliable supplier, reliable partners, and when there will be Nord Stream 2, they will see in Kremlin that we want good cooperation. And Bloomberg says that Russian hackers attacked American nuclear stations. So can we say that these people are reliable partners? Even in Soviet times, they didn't do this. And now they are really tough, and they lost their shame completely. And also there are separate recommendations on Ukraine. And Gazprom provided an ultimatum, and Miller said in 2015 that in 2019 they will close transit. And after this, he was speaking in a different ways about it. And our message is there should be united Europe. We should speak about values, not business practices that are just commercial, and we should prevent the implementation of this ultimatum, and all negotiations with Gazprom should start that security of Ukraine and supplies to it should be guaranteed, and this existing infrastructure should not be changed quickly. We should find out what will be the consequences for Ukraine, for Eastern Europe, for consumers in Germany, and also the taxpayers in Russia. So we should study the situation in Russia and the consequences for taxpayers in Russia and for the supply of gas abroad. So this was a very interesting report and recommendations. We continue our work, and I give the floor to Natalia, Boyko, and then the experts that are with us to answer one question that is maybe a key question. What should be the recommendations for Ukrainian decision makers, those who take decisions? Because unfortunately, we know that a lot of people who are responsible for decision taking do not understand clearly all the logic, or they do not have time in order to see it clearly. So I would like our experts to focus on this issue. What should be the key actions of Ukrainian government, not just to speak, but to prove that we can maybe not repel this attack, but maybe efficiently oppose. So please, I ask to all the experts to reduce their speech to 5 minutes. Thank you. You're given 5 minutes. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you for joining us. This is an important topic for us. First, as a representative of the Ministry of Energy, I would like to say that in order to oppose our policy, first we should do our home task. we should have a full-fledged gas market that will be functioning, and when we implement all our obligations according to the third energy package, and also how the price is formed in Ukraine, and we will be freely speaking with our investors and propose to enter the functioning market, then we will be able to efficiently promote our interests. And Ukraine is a reliable transit country, and we publish all the data, and we also invite commissions to verify us, and we should modernize our system, and we have a dialogue supported by our colleagues about the use of our storage facilities as gas hubs. So we should clearly understand our policy and to implement our obligations, especially concerning third energy package. And also we should continue our dialogue with Brussels, with the United States, and with our, potentially we should speak at platforms in Brussels with Gazprom about the situation that will be in 2019, to use all the legal opportunities and instruments that exist. So we need to use our legal instruments and means, and our negotiators, different organizations. We are members as an energy community, energy charter, and we should use these platforms, and all this depend on our efficiency, and we will get better results. And I like the argument that we should fight propaganda. I believe that for us the best way to fight this propaganda is to publish real statistics, real figures. So this shows real processes, and only being transparent and being understandable for potential investors. For EU, for the United States, we will be able to get the support we want to get. So where should we look at, and what is it, regulation or division of Naftogaz company, what we can do in order to see that we are moving ahead? Of course, everyone waits for unbundling of Naftogaz, but here we should be realistic about the dates. We should get final decision of the Stockholm court, and then we should also form the price and it is ongoing process, and we have a deputy minister who deals with this issue, and the ministry got a whole package of provisions. So we are moving ahead, and at the same time I wanted to see real results and about the regulation and extraction of gas and realization of concept to increase our own production, because the government undertook this obligation, and we should move in this direction. And in 2020 we should show these results. So I cannot say what indicator we should look at in the next several months, but if we took this first period until 2020, and the unbundling and the functioning of the market, not only for industrial but also for household customers and interconnectors construction, so this will show the positive results.
Скайп наших. Ну, пана. Є у нас скайп, колеги? Є? Okay.
Mr. Alan Raine, do you hear us? Do you hear us?
The question is, what should be done, not stated, but done by Ukrainian government, let's say for the next, to the end of the year, to show that we are a reliable partner and to show that we are working to strengthen energy security? What steps would prove international community that we are actually working on that?
I think there are a number of things that Ukraine can do. One of them is to clearly engage with all the European processes. Naftogaz has engaged both in the the OPAL exemption decision before the European Court of Justice, and I think it's also filed in relation to the Gazprom commitments offer, which the European Commission is considering at the moment. And I think part of it is if there are European procedures that are there, then Ukraine should take part in whatever is on the table. If there are challenges to Nord Stream 1 or Nord Stream 2, again, that is something that Ukraine should look at participating in. Now, I think internally, I think there are a number of things. Clearly, one of the issues is pushing forward with ownership unbundling and the liberalization of the Ukrainian gas market. I think that is something which is really quite important. Clearly, we've got to get through the Stockholm arbitration case, but after that, I think we want to plan. And I think one of the issues which I think will be worth considering is setting up a roadmap which is quite clear about where Ukraine intends to go. Should also, I think, deal with the transit fees issue after 2019. And to be absolutely clear to the rest of the world that after 2019, that Ukraine will be offering very competitive, low transit fees, which will allow Russian gas to cross Ukraine at a competitive rate, which will make the idea of Nord Stream 2 completely economically redundant. And that is something which you can do. So I think there is a whole series of things which are there, starting with European procedures, then moving to the continued reform and liberalisation of the market and according to European rules, then creating a roadmap. And then the other major issue is upstream, sorting out the upstream and opening up more to foreign investment. Because all of these things create more engagement and more interest. Because one of the difficulties here is, I know, obviously, all the usual Ukrainian, all the political issues, but the issue, the true issue here is that there is an enormous opportunity, because you have the huge storage facilities, you have the transit, you have also substantial amounts of your own natural gas resources. And potentially Ukraine could take a huge part in the development of an open European gas market. So I think there is very substantial opportunities here, but Ukraine does have to step up and begin to seize those opportunities. And of course, as I said, there are lots of political reasons within the country where that all becomes very difficult, and we know all of this. But there is, and I think, a need to demonstrate credibility, because the difficulty is that a lot of the time, a lot of the, what I don't think a lot of people in Kiev understand is that it is not 1991, and that we have been through so many episodes of hope in Ukraine and then failure that a lot of the Western community, the donor community, those in Washington and Brussels and Berlin and Paris and London and Rome, are kind of so used to Ukrainian failure, they don't actually believe you can do it. And I don't think the Ukrainian elites understand there is actually only so much willingness to act. There is only so much goodwill. And there's a real danger that the elites will simply, the Ukrainian elites, will essentially exhaust that goodwill. And I say that's something which I do not think is recognized in Kiev. So I think there are opportunities, but you do really begin to have to seize them.
Thank you.
And the question is although there has been a tremendous positive moves, more moves in the direction of doing the right thing in the last 3 years than in the previous 25, we really do have to move much beyond where we are now. And the opportunities that follow if we do are significant. But the question is, are we really up to doing it? I want to start, what I finish with a further thought is this. That opportunity is reinforced by the fact that I think in the last few weeks, what is increasingly becoming clear is that all of the policies that the Russian Federation is using in the energy sector are beginning to unravel. So I think Nord Stream 2 is coming under enormous pressure. There is actually a serious danger that the US will impose sanctions. And equally, the Gazprom antitrust case is proving much, much more difficult for Gazprom than it initially realized. So that will actually, if those two things end up with a prohibition decision on Gazprom and the blocking of Nord Stream 2 and possibly indeed Nord Stream 1, Ukraine will be in a stronger position, and it should then seek to make the most of it. It should seriously push then on top of that, and push heavily on liberalisation and reform. Then you will have created a really significant step change in your energy relationship, both with the Russian Federation and with the European Union.
Thank you.
That is one of the prospects here. I shall stop there.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your ideas. У нас ще на зв'язку пан Крутихін з Москви. Чуть-чуть позже к вам перейдем.
We have Mr. Krutikhin on Skype connection from Russia, expert from Russia, and now we are giving the floor to DiXi Group, Olena Pavlenko, whether it is real to make a real roadmap or we need yet another conference in London so that we get a program till 2020. What could be done to create indeed this thing, which is a document that could be implemented but not just presented. 5 minutes and 5 theses. One of them will be the response to your question. The first thesis says we should not doubt that Nord Stream 2 is a political project. Let's remind the Southern Stream Pipeline Consortium was created, many European companies, economic feasibility, and do you remember how it was stopped with the Russian Federation's president decision, just decision of one person? It should have been the lesson for the whole history of Russian gas, Russian-Ukrainian decisions. Now we see lots of consortia, many versions how to get Ukrainian gas transport system. When we are talking about building around about pipelines, we are not talking about additional ways, but about attempts of Russia to get to the border with the EU, to have physical point of entry into European borders. Mr. Alan Riney described very good all legislative violations of Nord Stream 2. I will not stop on this. We are talking that Russia, this or that way, it will try to build out the gas pipelines. The third thing, all policy of EU and Russia in the EU is the attempt to divide the EU. Let's remind how Putin asked to work on bilateral level. Nord Stream 2 is not yet an open conflict, but it is a conflict between the Central and Eastern Europe's countries, saying it is a threat to them, and the Western Europe country who are most focused on LNG and they have their own interests. The question is to the EU whether the EU are ready to see yet another tool of division inside the EU. The fourth point is, the fourth item is, I would like to emphasize from the analytical document issued by Zaslavsky, when Russia is saying about stopping transportation of gas via territory of Ukraine, then the EU pay more attention on Southern Stream or Nord Stream 2. It's like in the oil sector when there is some very loud message on stopping transportation via territory of Ukraine, then the market start to think, the environment start to think about some roundabout ways. So transit may be stopped, but just the propaganda starts to focus attention on this roundabout pipelines. We should prevent such attempts. And the last answer and response to your question is that the Nord Stream 2 construction and our gas reform, the point of entry at the eastern border of Ukraine, it will be sought at the transportation system working, operating on according to European standards. Now it is not so. Now our point of entry, we have very complex way ahead. There will be many attempts to prevent us from transfer to our eastern border, and we should make a roadmap which is talked about, and final full stop will be the entry point at the eastern border, and it requires work with European companies. I'd like to ask for Skype connection from Moscow. Mr. Krutikhin, you are welcome. We do not hear you. Good afternoon. Now we hear you. We have 5 or 7 minutes, and a short question to you. If we will be able to realize European rules in Ukraine, European market, and to transfer this point of purchase of gas to the eastern border of Ukraine, then will it be possible to stop war with Russia with gas weaponry? As a second question to Mr. Zaslavsky said that this is not the war with Russia, this is the war with Kremlin. Do we have any forces with which we can cooperate in Russia but not to fight? Among leaders of the gas sector of Ukraine, there is understanding, full understanding what to do. I took part in 2 forums in Ukraine, annual forums, and I heard plans, very specific plans of liberalizing the internal domestic gas market, and the attempt to integrate, intentions to integrate it into European gas system. But the problem is that restructuring of Naftogaz and liberalization of domestic gas markets, they are very slow. And I heard for 2 years the schemes how to do and to do this and how, but the steps done, they are made either with delays or just slow. Foreign investors were shocked when they heard that Ukrainian party intends to dramatically increase tariffs for gas piping, and I was told that there were very good arguments to use Ukrainian route of transit from Russia, but now we look at the Nord Stream because the attitude of Ukrainian authorities to transit is not, we do not like it. So we do not think Ukraine will respect commercial conditions just like Gazprom does. And for Ukraine to be efficient in achieving its goals is to develop its own gas production. I heard today some statements from Kiev that in 3 years Ukraine will be able to satisfy its gas demand in full. I heard this in Kiev at forums, and I think this is a real target to be implemented, but not in 3 years, but in 7 or 8 years. To this end, this sector should be open for foreign investors with their advanced technologies, because when coefficient of production from deposits will give us great successes in increase of production output, and how to create attractiveness of market environment. This is a question known to everyone. The scheme is very simple to integrate with the EU and to negotiate cooperation with European partners, and this concerns Nord Stream Pipeline 2, with whom the war is ongoing. We should look that we have not only Gazprom, but about 2 or 3 Gazproms. One Gazprom is a political weapon of the Kremlin. Its leaders, they declare nonsense statements, and they press foreign states and dollarization policy they pursue. They try to bribe leaders of other countries, and this is very hard to cooperate with people who have such approaches. The second Gazprom is Gazprom with whom it is possible to work. It is a commercial institution, flexible with respect to European partners. It offers new conditions of gas supply without any political color, and it offers price of gas at nearest hub. They are attractive partners, and it is possible to negotiate with them. They are ready for short-term contracts and to change conditions of long-term contracts when the leaders do not see these middle-level managers work as normal company. Chances for realization are very high. I mean, Nord Stream. Those who are interested in its success, they have specific tangible goals. They are German companies, they are partners of Gazprom in construction of under the sea part, which according to financial agreement like Nord Stream 1 agreement, it will set tariffs for gas supply regardless of outputs. It doesn't matter whether they will operate or not, but they will earn money. This means investment and then getting net profits. German companies are interested in this. They want, on account of Gazprom gas, the new diversified source of gas. As concerns opponents of this project, unfortunately, I'd like to say that their arguments are either political or emotional. Political arguments are: let's not insult Ukraine, let's not exclude Ukrainians' incomes, profits, and emotional argument is Gazprom is bad company, politically bad. By all those shortages of supply of gas to Europe and Poland and Germany suffered, all those failures, they were because of Russia, but not because of Ukraine, due to political reasons. So Ukraine should emphasize that the main threat jeopardizing security of Europe is not originate from Ukraine, does not originate from Ukraine, but it is unpredictable decisions of Kremlin. Indeed, Kremlin is party in this gas war with whom we fight. We are fighting with. Well, I got information we are invited to this third gas forum. We would like to invite you to the gas forum number 3. Remain with us, and we have now an expert realist, and he will tell us about the realistic action plan. Your 5 minutes, please. I would like to say, first of all, that I have compiled a good report, and it has been presented in Europe. It is obvious for us that the gas crisis in Ukraine, in neighboring Belarus, they're obvious, since I am telling to European colleagues whether they remember from which European Russian strategy till 2030 starts. There are all answers to all questions. There is a quotation: Russia has sufficient resources and potent energy sector, which is the basis of economy and the tool for domestic and foreign policy to pursue. And then the tools goes such as Gazprom, Rosneft, their main tools in the hands of the Kremlin. We understand very good that other Gazprom, which Mr. Krutikhin mentioned, its leader is in the Kremlin. This is a kind of matryoshka which has indeed the commercial fundamentals, but from the outside its exterior is political. In 21st century, aggression of Russia created new method of crypto war, where energy companies play a very important role in pursuing geopolitical interests of Russia and all those gas crises, which are in practice scenarios focused directed against Ukraine, and Nord Stream 2, Nord Stream 1, Southern Stream. What Mr. Illya's report lacking, Mr. Zaslavsky's report lacking? We should look at what Gazprom, Rosneft are doing and affiliated companies in Swiss canton of Zug. The headquarters are located there. The roots of Schroederizing the politicum is just there because of specifics of Swiss legislation. The Swiss legislation offers the highest degree of confidentiality of information. So this is high level of corruption, but it is very elegant way of corruption. So budget money from the national budget of Russia also disappear in the same Swiss canton. We should say that Ukrainian position is rather strong on opposition to Nord Stream 2, but it is not enough to have some stand, to hold some stand. We should take some set of actions. We have foreign policy, we have security policy, but we do not have foreign energy sector policy. We have a profile minister, Natalia Boyko, but her level of coordination is the ministry, but this question is broader than the ministerial level. We had for some time a commissioner, an ombudsman. We should have introduced this position the day before yesterday. In my opinion, this is one of key issues. At the level of the state, this position should be introduced like vice premier position as we had previously. We should look the optimum way what position to launch. Every ministry fights at its micro front line. Do you mean the Council of National Council of Security and Defense? By intended function, it should be where this things should be concentrated. This is the National Council of Security and Defense. I agree with Mr. Krutikhin that we need to increase output of domestic gas production and also to reduce gas consumption, and this would be the response to many questions when we will not depend on importation of gas neither from west, neither or east. Yet another important component in the association agreement, there is Article 274. It envisages that not only we should consult with Brussels, but Brussels should consult with us as well. It was ignored in a Pell question and in Nord Stream 2 matter. The consultations will take place as far as I know, and we should set to Brussels this question that Nord Stream 2 should not exist because it is against the energy project of the EU and Ukraine. 2 billion of lost money should be compensated to Ukraine if Europe wants to realize it. We should get then relevant compensation. This would freeze some hot German heads. When they hear about money, then they try to start to calculate.
So I hope we will have time for questions then. Natalia, thank you, Mikhail, for this comment. There are a lot of opinions about National Defense and Security Council. They should review this issue. And you know that now, last week, we had a meeting on cyber attacks, and we feel what you said, and at our level we try to help, but we should have clear vector provided by the Security Council, and also about foreign policy, energy policy, and about consultations. You are right. Due to the initiative of Naftogaz and the ministry, we visited Brussels to raise the issue why there were no consultations about Opal, and there were many arguments why it was not timely, why these consultations were not held even with the EU members concerning this issue. So they tried to present it, and the issue was raised about Nord Stream, and they have a mandate stage, and we raised this issue at each of the meeting, and I attended the committee, the meeting between EU and the Ukraine and EU, and we tried to communicate this message, and I spoke about Turkish Stream and Nord Stream, and the EU representative said that Ukraine is an important transit country, and we use two other platforms. This is the Secretariat of Energy Community, and now there is negotiation about the change of the agreement, and the Ukrainian side is active in this process, and Olena Pavlenko and Naftogaz, and Ukrenergo company and the governmental office, they coordinate their efforts inside the country, and in the new agreement we should introduce instruments in order to appeal these situations about transborder communication and the use of strategic infrastructure. And energy charter is an interesting issue. Ukraine was not really active in this area, and energy efficiency aspect was more active, and energy charter that would be of great use in transborder cooperation. And now we are at a new level of dialogue at different levels, and we will communicate at different levels, and in Brussels that will be an additional voice in our support. And we had a delegation about the charter, and we speak about transit and the use of Ukrainian facilities as gas hub. So several questions from the audience. Natalia Protkaglovko. Please be brief. Natalia Protkaglovko. You said about 2 billion of compensation, the calculator. So I tried to calculate. So if this Nord Stream 2 is built, and I was impressed by the data, because international companies, including German companies, they invested millions in infrastructure in this project. So I believe that there are no diplomatic means to resolve this issue. There should be billions of dollars compensated to the countries who invested in the prospects of this. Can Russia dig these billions? So we calculated that the billions of dollars were invested in infrastructure. So all the politics of Gazprom, and Mikhail Krutikhin said it correctly, that commercially they act when their officials do not supervise them. So I believe that first for them is politics, then corruption and embezzlement, and then the third component in Europe, they say that they accept some conditions of Europeans, but they do it under the pressure of arbitrage and Stockholm, and then they change. So this is not voluntary change for them. And I believe that those billions, they are invested, they are lost. And insiders, they just took them, and they do not want to change their policy. And the foreign partners, Western partners, they believe that this will be like a festival of spending and that will continue. So this festivity of life, and this is going on not only in the gas sector. So kleptocracy in Kremlin and the gas sector is only one story for them. So there is a case of Chinese pipelines, and there are, if you calculate it, there are billions. But Nord Stream and Turkish pipeline, I believe they can cope with it. So I would say that, and Russian experts called them that these pipelines, they are used just for corruption. And Southern Stream was not built, but according to the calculation, Mr. Krutikhin, $17 billion were invested in this project in Russia, so they just dug this money, but maybe this money can be found in Canton Zug. And I agree with your logic, but yes, diplomatic efforts are not enough. There should be special efforts that Illya provided in his recommendations, and this can be found in Zug Canton. We thank our speakers, we thank our guests, and on the site of UCMC we will have a video of this meeting. Thank you and goodbye.